Great. Well, hi. Hello and happy 2024. Great to see everybody here today. Thanks for joining us, Mr. John Nicol. And as always, Janel and Beek. Great to see you again. This is our fourth webinar. Today we're talking about tuning out the noise, finding peace and calm and focus in what is anticipated to be a rather turbulent year. As always, this is an open discussion, but before we jump in, why don't we do a quick round of introductions to remind everybody of who we are and what authority we have on this topic. Janel, would you like to start?
Thanks. Hi, I'm Janel Beek. I'm an executive coach and change leader, and I help leaders and teams work through change and come up with strategies for better ways of working through change and leading through ambiguous times like we have right now.
Awesome. My name is John Nicol. I too am a professional certified coach. I work with individuals, teams, do executive coaching. Really am focused on helping all of those different levels with change, with transformation, whatever that looks like to them individually or them as an organization. I'm just glad to be here.
Welcome.
It's great to see you. Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, good seeing you both. Yeah.
Of course, hi, I'm Brandon Linton. I'm a coach of sorts, coach at large, coach on the move, where I'm going to be determined. It's another great year. Agile coach, enterprise coach, executive coach, coach of organizational development, whatever you want to call it. When I boil it down, I think I help organizations and people be their best selves and achieve their goals. And I'm an advocate for the version of themselves they don't even think is possible. So there's that. Home is Detroit, Michigan, and it's great to be here with you guys today to have this chat around. And I think it's also just for me a really resonant way to kind of come back from what is a chaotic holiday stretch. And there's goals and there's little notes I left myself from December when I was kind of wrapping up, and it all goes, and then kind of get stuck in the headlights. How to create that focus, how to get back in that groove is one thing, but this year promises to be, obviously with an election, it's some global events happening, which we can dive into and talk a little bit about what's out there and could be distracting us, creating some noise that will drag us away from being our best selves. Then what are those techniques? Why is it important to show up and to have that focus? What does it give you when you have it? And when you don't have it, how to get back there? And especially as a leader, if you have a group of people, everybody's going to be feeling these things. Everybody's going to be seeing them, reacting to them differently. We talk about bringing your whole self to work and creating a safe space for that. How do you do that even when it's difficult? That's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. Take a breath, Brandon.
Yes. Run out of water.
Was Michigan in the Super Bowl? I mean, the Rose Bowl? I'm serious.
The sweater, right? Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
Not a jerk either. Like, were they in it?
Yeah. So just to, recent events, very thrilled to see the University of Michigan Wolverines win the Rose Bowl and off to the national championship, which will be played on Monday the 8th. I think the game is 5 p.m. or something like that. So
this is
very much looking forward to it.
This is great.
Go Blue.
Go Blue. I didn't know you were such a huge Wolverines fan then, Brandon. Yeah. So yeah, they're playing Washington, right? So they're playing Washington for the national championship. So yeah. The Huskies.
Yeah, I feel like I've been in the fog the last several days, so I'm like, did they play yet?
They did play.
Oh, yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
See that?
I wasn't focused on the college game so much. I was in the my championship game last weekend for fantasy football, so I made it to the championship game and then lost. So it's like, oh man. So, so I was focused on pro football, and then I said, oh yeah, we got the college games on last Monday night. So yeah, all good. Yeah.
Cool. Well, when we're talking about noise, as far as challenges that steal from our focus and our team's focus. And the other part of that too is, I think you had mentioned it, John, is things that cause division. And so like, it's one thing to have the noise, and then it's another to have this other layer of like dissonance going on. And
Yeah.
I don't want to be all gloom and doom about it, but it can be a real challenge to tune that out. And then to help others tune it out to the degree where it's like, look, we know, but yet bring your whole self to work. So there's like that paradox of, hey, I'm showing up with this and it's bothering me. But then there's the opportunity to work on weeding out what isn't important and what's needed for this very moment at work or as a leader.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying there, Janelle, because just what you said is, in my opinion, is an example of leadership, right? I mean, to me, just knowing, just being tuned into that and knowing that's like, there's a lot going on, and it's affecting everybody, not only, that person or people who are occupying the leadership roles, if you will, but everyone in the company. And so it's like, knowing that and knowing that there's just a lot of things happening. How do we check in with ourselves and show up as present as we can and be as empathetic and everything that's needed when we are in a role of leading others, and that's hugely important in my opinion.
I wonder how much pressure some folks are under. Like, they are well-intended people, but sometimes it feels like there's not any time to stop and check. I have a team of this many direct reports. How am I going to, like, I'm back-to-back meetings. How can I even make time to do this without it being, putting me over the edge?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I'll start. I mean, I think that I think one of the things that I know that everywhere I've been, every client I've worked with respect to any kind of transformation work, change work, whatever, one of the first things we do is to have these people look at their calendars and make a suggestion around, like, the next month we really need you to be focused here, and we'd like you to wipe out your entire calendar, wipe it clean. And then start bringing back in things that are truly needed. Because what I continuously see personally is that, people are attending meetings to attend meetings. What's the value behind that meeting? Do they need to be there? Is it something they can read in a recap? And in doing so, just like you said, Janelle, which I really loved what you just said, which is, if they're in meetings all day, then is that the intention of their job, or is the intention, the expected outcomes of their job as a leader is to be out there, understanding what's going on in the firm, what's going on with their people, doing a Gemba walk, if you will, getting out there and walking, and talking with the people that they work with, what they lead, and if they're too busy in meetings all day, then they're losing touch or they're out of touch.
I would
So start canceling, deleting, declining meetings. Do you have to go to every one of them? You do not. I assert that you do not. None of us do. So start making that time.
Well, we've all seen those graphics where it shows, it looks like an MRI, and I apologize. I have never vetted the authenticity of these graphics, but it shows like kind of the red, yellow, green, blue portions of the brain after one meeting, and then like after 8 in a row, and it gets progressively more red and yellow, indicating it's like stress or something along those lines. And you're really not even able to be present. And I love that you called that out, because it goes back to that notion of you have to take care of yourself to be able to take care of others. Especially as a leader, that's, to the point, back to meetings, multiple demands. We know that being efficient with our cash right now, right? Being very mindful of spend in the economic conditions we're in, it's going to be very top of mind. So how do you, it may even feel like you're doing something wrong by taking a break, by not being fully dedicated to the cause. But I think that's the counterintuitiveness of some of these techniques, is you get more with less, ironically.
I agree. I could agree more. One of the things that I've learned, and I'm still learning, is that, when you think about like the 5 love languages, mine by far is acts of service. And when I extend that into how I work professionally, and personally, I mean, I've always been about others. I always live to serve other people and lift them up and to do right by them and to help them get wherever they want to get on their own journeys. Yet, having said that, one of the things that I failed to do, and it caused me to completely crash and burn personally, was I didn't take care of myself. And so I got to the point where I completely emptied my tank, and I was getting to a point where it's like, man, I can't even, I'm not taking care of myself. And so how can I take care of others if I'm not even doing that? So I love what you said, Brandon, because it's like I personally firmly believe in that. You have to take care of you in order to take care of others. And
Yeah.
I truly feel like that as a leader, we have a huge responsibility of taking care of others. So make the time to take care of you. You don't have to go to 8 straight hours of meetings. And it's just like what we do when we're doing training, right? I mean, we intentionally, are every 45 minutes or so, we're intentionally, having a break so that people can get up, stretch out, have a chat, whatever, so they can, unwind from the 45 minutes of learning they've been through, so they can reconnect with themselves and get their brain, kind of back in focus mode. So, yeah.
Two things that I think of with the calendar, um, and that's one of them is like when I've worked with someone on this is it seems what do you mean I'm going to clear my calendar, or what do you mean I need to be more available? And they're being honest about it. They're like,
Yeah.
I've been like this for years. I've been locked in every day, like for years. And it's like, well, let's just look at one day and look at where you give value and where you receive value. Are any,
Yeah.
are they value in or out? Like, where are you giving or getting it? And it's like, or was this inherited when you picked up the job and, it's non-value for all. That was one thing. And then the other thing we talk about is, and this is just words, but I think it matters, especially in a year like this, when someone is saying, oh, I have to hop on another call. I have to go, I have to hop, or I have to jump on another call. And I know maybe some people are like, that's silly. But to me, it's like, when have you ever been asked to hop, jump, or drop things as a leader? Like you're dropping from the call because you have to go hop on another call. I mean, it sounds ridiculous. But so what I'm trying to do there is work with someone and be more intentional with, I have a hard stop at 5 minutes before the hour, whatever, whatever the words are. But then it's like, I have to leave this call. I'm leaving it. I'm not hopping.
Right.
I'm less reactionary even in my words. If I can only start with my words today and moving from this meeting to be able to take care of myself for 5 minutes before I have another meeting, that's a start.
I love that, Janelle. I really love that. And what you brought up for me is that when we as human beings, and I use this in my coaching, it's like when we use the word have to, I have to, I could have, I should have, I would have, I have to, those are all words of self-judgment.
Ooh.
And so if I say to myself, oh, I should have done that, oh, I could have done that, I would have done, I have to do this, it's like that is all words that we use to judge ourselves. And so therefore that can lead into, not always, but it can lead into then beating ourselves up and judging ourselves and then making ourselves do stuff that maybe if we just took a step back and looked at it, more holistically and looked at it through maybe a different lens, it's like, do I really have to do that? Maybe I don't. Maybe what's better is to not go to this, maybe just not go to that meeting for the next hour and take a few minutes to reconnect with myself and then step out into the space and reconnect with my people, have some conversation, just go around and chat, and have more of the humanness of, if we're working in the office again, for those who are, then do that, and if you're not, then, get on Zoom or a Teams call, or whatever, and connect with your people that way. Because I assert that, again, we don't have to do all these meetings. We just don't.
John, when you've been able to make that kind of space for yourself to reconnect with yourself or just get pause in the day, how does your ripple effect change on the people that are engaged with you sort of before and after that pause?
Hmm. Um, I would say that the ripple effect that I've noticed is that I'll declare it. So it's like, if I'm like if I'm going to be in a client meeting, and it's just like what you said, Janelle. It's like, I've we've all had those days where it's like, even as a consultant, right? It's like, we're in back to back to back to back to back meeting. It's like, okay, well, is the client paying for me to sit in all these meetings, and what's the value I'm getting out of these meetings? And or is there any value, and if so, is it the value that is being expected to be delivered back to them? And many times I've noticed it's like, no. And so, getting back to your question, Brandon, what I'll do is I'll declare it to the clients, like, you know what, I'm not going to attend this next meeting, and here's why. I need some time to process and think about the last 2 hours of meetings, and think about how I and we can apply that to things that the client wants to do, how the individual people want to do, how the team wants to do, or the organization wants to shift, and think about, like, okay, are we talking about the right things? Are we on the right path? As a consultant, that's one of the reasons why you brought us in. And what I've noticed is that over time, when people see that that I'm authentic and sincere about that, and that by giving myself some time and space back and not attending all these meetings, that I can then put some heads down time into thinking about, like, okay, how do we apply this stuff? How can we then co-create, some stuff together that is really where they're wanting to go? And what I've noticed is that people then start thinking to themselves about, maybe I don't have to go that. Maybe JT, everyone calls me JT. Um, uh, Maybe we don't have to have that meeting this week. Maybe we can reschedule, or maybe we can do it every other week. And that starts to, and I noticed that with the previous client I just finished up with a couple of weeks ago, that was a trend that was starting to happen with them, where it's like, maybe we don't need to do that as often. So that's one of the things I've noticed, Brandon, in answer to your question.
I love that, because that's you're really shifting the culture around meetings without even,
Yeah.
right. It's the presence and the power of the example of the coach, of saying, hey, I'm not value add here. I could be more impactful somewhere else. And then
Yeah.
other people see that and they're like, hey, who do we really need to have in this meeting? Right. And then
Yeah.
I've
I
seen
agree, man.
exactly that change with
Yeah.
then the
And I
meeting
think as
invites.
leaders, we have to model that stuff, right? I mean, we're
Yeah.
modeling it for them. So part of
Yeah.
the reasons why we're doing what we do is, as the three of us go in and we're doing, change work, transformation work. We're doing a lot of coaching, especially at executive level, mid-level management,
Yeah.
team, all the way down to the individuals. We are modeling stuff. We're modeling behaviors, mindsets, around, like, here's where you all say you want to go. Let me help model that for you. And modeling that could be like, no, let's wipe out the meetings for today. I love what you said, Janelle. It's like, just start with a day. I know that I've gone in, and I think we all have gone in, probably at times, saying, let's wipe out a whole month. And that causes nothing but stress and anxiety, probably, all that stuff. But it's like, I've said that to make a point around, like, okay, we're going to do that drastic. No, they probably can't do that. But hey, getting them thinking about, like, you don't have to do anything. We're at choice. Everyone is at choice all the time. And so if we're being brought in to help coach executives how to be better leaders, or how to transform, then they've made a choice to make a shift. So we have to help them with that. And sometimes it's very uncomfortable.
Um,
And it's
what
fun.
so
Yeah.
yeah, as you say, on the take care of yourself aspect, right? So I love that one, right? It's like, if you're not adding value, like, take care of yourself. Don't get all scrunched up, because I've been there, right? You walk in, you're kind of, weary, and you put that energy out, and I think people match it. I think that, for
Yeah.
me, that's the biggest difference. When I get that pause, and I can come back differently, more the person I want to be, people match that, right? Or I can influence others to be different. But in terms of that, sort of taking care of yourself first, any other big ones out there other than that, create that pause, that you would offer up as, like, hey, here's something that you could try?
Janelle, I mean, you both know me, and I can talk for days. So I can sit here and just start yakking away right now and answering that
Yeah.
question. But I want to give some space.
That's all right. We're glad you're here. The one thing I think of, and maybe is just it's reflection, and the other part of that is exercise.
Oh yeah,
And it doesn't have to, like I have a definition of exercise that's probably different than a lot of other people's definitions, and Brandon, yours too. Um, so like it, fresh air, sunshine,
yes.
reflection, those are the things I think of that. In this story, like I was talking with someone, I was networking with someone when I first joined the last company I was at, and she was uh, seemed like a positive, well-intended person, but she's like, "Oh, I'm so busy. I can't even get outside during the day to just go for a walk around the block. I would really like to do that." And I said, "Well, what's holding you back?" She's like, "Are you kidding me? I have so much to do. I'm in all these meetings. I can't do that. If I say that I'm doing that, someone's going to like." So she had this whole narrative of
Mm.
self-judgment words, like you said, John. And she took herself out of even going down to the mailbox during the day to get a little sunshine
Oh
and
my
she's
gosh.
a young woman. And I just thought, oh man.
Wow.
So that's just like the extreme opposite of get some sunshine on your face, get outside
Yeah.
or do some kind of, if you have the exercise, if you have a Peloton or whatever, like use it, don't hang clothing on it. Put that on
Exactly.
the seat.
Love that. Well, I know you're not just doing Peloton. You're triathlons. You are an amazing athlete. So, Janelle. So, yeah.
So, and I think
Um,
meditation is like that. I mean, I'm sorry, meditation's separate. Reflection is a practice too that it's
yeah.
not going to work after just what, I mean, it could work after one time, but it's like, how, don't wait until, well, I do that on Sunday mornings. Well, yeah, but it's Tuesday and we're already burning a dumpster, like,
Exactly.
wait until
Exactly.
Sunday.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there because again, it's are we really being authentic with ourselves?
Mm,
Or are we just putting up this facade and being someone that we're truly not, but we think we have to be this person because of a job or because we have some image at work that we have to maintain. And the reality is that the answer to that, in my opinion, is no. And the reality is that I think the more that we can find some balance and take care of ourselves, the more authentic you show up, we all show up, and then the people can truly see who we are versus something that we're trying to be. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I love that. I think the other thing that kind of going on what you were asking about, Brandon, as well, is like I think I think that part of being a leader and just being a human being is we just have to be authentic and acknowledge that there's a lot of especially in today's world, there's just a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of distractions. If we're just thinking about the United States, we got now we're in 24. We got elections coming up. Who knows how that's all going to go down? That seems pretty chaotic to me. You got local, state, stuff going on. There's just unrest around the world. And the economy, in my opinion, is not it's not improving, and there's still companies downsizing, laying off. So there's just a lot of things happening, a lot of stress. And I think that leaders who try to mm, put their head in the sand or pretend it's not there and try to create this vacuum of space within the workday is problematic because I think that we're all affected by it, and we're all affected by it differently. And I think that true leadership is being authentic, empathetic, understanding of like, hey, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and let's acknowledge that. If we need to talk about it, let's get some stuff out so that it doesn't get pent up and bottled up. And at the same time, if it helps people to release and get a little more comfortable, then they can, maybe get more focused and maybe focus on themselves and things like that. So yeah, I don't know.
I love that. What you're alluding to there is that not ignoring it, right? Addressing it, at least
Yeah.
sort of pointing to it. Some people call this uh, shooting the elephant in the room or whatever, right? You know it's impacting people. People are thinking about it, but perhaps nobody's
Right.
talking about it. And when I think about some of the great leaders that I've had over the years, in a good sort of world event, this person would come onto the floor. This is of course back when we were all in the office, and announce, for example, when Prince William got married, he came in the floor and said, "Will and Kate are married." Right? It was completely unmistakable because it was all over the news, or engaged or something like that, for whatever the news was. But on the flip side, right? It was, it's like, of course, the headlines are all there, news everywhere. It's kind of, it can easily become a distraction. The moment you just say, "Oh, it's there," for some reason, it takes some charge out of it. It allows you to get a little more focused. But on the flip side, when things were difficult, or there was a big outage somewhere in the company, or something was impacting what we were doing, but not directly even, it was kind of like, "Hey, yes, this is going on. If you need to talk about it, or if there's anything, anybody has questions, or if it's impacting you, come talk," right? Creating that open door
Yeah,
policy,
exactly.
not just invitation to the open door, but then encouraging people to follow up on that, and actually do it. And I find that even just naming it, right? Doing the opposite of like, "Oh, it's awkward, I'm not going to address it," being the first person to normalize even that it's there, is a big first step.
Totally. Yeah, I love that, because normalization is a big thing in my opinion. I mean, it's part of what we do as professional coaches, right? I mean, it's like, you know, it's not like that. For most things, I would say that it's not unique to me individually. There have been many, 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 many human beings who have gone through the same or very similar things to what I'm experiencing or going through right now. And so helping people to, by normalizing it, helps people to understand that they're not alone, and I think that, I feel like that, especially with people that I've been working with, um, that with the speed of technology, the speed of society, the speed of everything, social media, all that stuff, that people are becoming even more alone.
Yes.
And I think that, just being human, being authentic, and helping people understand that it's like, look, you're not alone. And I do care about you, and I care about our team. I care about where we're going as a firm, as an organization, and it matters. It goes a long way. And again, it's just about, for me, it's about just being human. It's about being authentic, and not, I'm putting you out front. You're well taken care of self out front, and and then helping people to understand. It's like, look, there are so many of the things that are happening right now that are completely out of our control. So as best as we can help coach people or model for them, that's like, try to reduce anxiety and stress or worry around things that are out of your control, and focus on things that you have choice and control over. That might help minimize some of the stuff. It doesn't take it away, but it might help them to at least start thinking about, like, well, can I control like how many missiles are being sent across the Gaza Strip back and forth? I can't. Can I be empathetic and around, like, all of the people who are suffering? Absolutely. But can I change that? I cannot. Now, you may be able to support whatever your beliefs are, whatever, but helping people to get to get a grasp on what they really truly can control, might help reduce some of that stress. It's not going to take it all away, but help them to just see it. So
And I think each person, we have a lot of new leaders out there that move from an role into some sort of management, and
mm,
they're working hard trying to figure out what that is. And it's like,
yeah,
it's this human part we're talking about, this authentic part, also plays into a person's style, and
yeah,
their how they do it is going to be different than how someone else does, and that's okay. As
yeah.
long as you practice and try. You got to try though.
Yeah, I love that, because again, I love what you just said, because again, we're not robots.
Yeah.
And I hope AI doesn't take over and change us all into robots, all doing the same thing. But there's the opportunity, and that's the way that, when we're coaching people, it's like, hey, change is good, change is needed, change is where we grow, and the next leader who steps in, she may not be the same as the one who just stepped out. Great. maybe she's got some new, interesting, cool things about how to lead, how to, ideas on how to, how we want to attack things or do things or roll things out. So that's awesome. And so again, it's just a matter of helping people to, really get good with that and not looking at change as like it's a horrible thing. As three of us know when we're doing systems coaching, right? I mean, it's like one of the things that I've always said is like I love working with teams that are in conflict or completely dysfunctional, because it's like in that moment there is something or some things that are wanting to change. Great. So let's help them bring that forward and figure out what that change is, because many times, if not most of the time or all the time, that change is something that's going to be good. You just got to help them get through the discomfort of that and let them know that it's like, it's okay. You're going to be okay. Let's go through it together.
Sounds like a little bit of bilateral ventilation, a little here, a little here, a little okay, let it out, little
Exactly.
tidbits, right? And then
there you go.
And then getting down to that dream behind the complaint. The approach that I always take is if there's energy, if there's passion, there's energy, and if we can get people to kind of reframe it a little bit. There's certainly that amount of passion and energy for agreement, for alignment, for how can we make this better?
Yeah. Does it always work? No. Is there going to be some times where things blow up? Absolutely. Yeah. No doubt. Yeah. And maybe that's the best thing that needed to happen. Maybe that's what needed to happen. And that's okay too. Again, it's just about, in my mind anyhow, it's about mindset, behavior, and how we observe and receive things, right? We can take all that stuff and receive them totally negatively and go, oh God, the world is ending, the sky's falling, all that stuff. Or we can look at it and go, you know what? Change was needed. Change is now. Change is ready. So how do we make the best of that? And how do we make it even better than it was before?
I love that. The other thing I think of is, as a leader, is thinking about, who am I hanging out with? That's helping my cause to be a more authentic, present person. And I don't mean like who am I choosing to hang out with or spend time with? And that person could be, someone I love even, but I need to change the kind of time I'm spending with them right now because they're going drama, or they're going, that these things are playing into our human weaknesses. And some people can't pull themselves out of it. And sometimes they pull others into what they can't pull themselves out of. And as a leader, just noticing that and being able to say, okay, maybe I'm spending too much time with that type of person, and I need to seek out a different kind to help me lead differently through this time. It's just an idea to think about. And I don't have ideas on how to find the right people, but it's like, if you're with the wrong, if you're with too much negativity, it. And you probably, the person's probably said it, like, I can't do this anymore. Well, what is that?
Right. Yeah, I love that, because I love what you said, Janel, because, again, a way, it's not the only way, but a way to our own growth, right, is to connect with people who are doing, modeling, behaving in the ways that we want to do in our own growth, right? And so then how do I connect with that person? How do I ask them to be a mentor of mine? And at the same time, the flip side of that is so on point, with respect to like, hey, we may be hanging around some people who are maybe not very good leaders. Maybe they're not very good, employees, not, whatever. And so, and yet they could be one of our closest friends. It doesn't mean that I'm going to end my friendship with them, but it might be this. I'm going to have a conversation and say, hey, look, here's how you're showing up for me. Here's the impact on me. If you're talking about impact feedback, but it's like, here's the impact of what you're doing, how you're behaving, what you're saying is on me. And if it's someone that, who works within your company that you're co-leading with or whatever, here's the impact that you're having, that I feel like that this is having on our people, and, you may have to create distance, and that can be difficult. But at the same time, in my mind, that is a sign, and that's the only sign, but it's a sign of a really great leader, because they're seeing and recognizing, okay, is that having a positive or a negative impact on our people? So, yeah, I love what you said.
Even be the age-old question of, have you noticed this impact when you verb or action, right? There's that the systemic awareness, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. When this happens, or when you say this is the impact on me. Or when this goes down, this is the impact I'm observing on the team. I mean, that's huge, and again, it's not, when we start having impact outcome conversations, and it's like, then it's like, it's not an accusatory conversation. It's about observation, saying, hey, I'm just observing, and I'm giving you feedback. Right.
Yes.
And here's what I'm observing. I'm not judging you. I'm not saying you're horrible. I'm just saying that as an observer, when I observe this behavior or this type of wording, whatever, here's the impact I'm observing. Is that how you want to show up? Is that what you want for the people or the company?
Well,
and then let them do their work. I'm not judging them. It's like, then they got to figure out their own stuff, right? And do their own introspective work and figure out, okay, is that really how I want to show up? That's on them.
What you're describing is not necessarily being the expert on, hey, don't do that because I said, right? Which is easy to do when you have that authority of the position that you're in as leader or a manager, whatever you want to call it. What you're doing is evoking a little bit more awareness of how that person is showing up, what the ripple effect or their impact is on the people around them.
Totally. What I love that you're saying there, Brandon, is that they're not evoking rank and privilege, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that they are looking at, and they know that, and everyone else knows that they're the leader or a leader. And yet, what I subscribe to is like, well, people aren't thinking of that person or those people as an authoritarian type figure, right? They're looking at them as someone who is leading them, leading the organization, leading the development of a cool new product, whatever. But it is a co-creative, co-designing process, right? Where people are included, now that person may have the ultimate decision making, but it's not done in a way where it's like people feel like that they're being told what to do, or, that there's inclusion there, right? And they have a voice, and that's huge. I mean, that's one of the things that I, in every gig I've been on, and part of the coaching I do is like, look, everyone's got a voice here, and we want to hear from everybody. Does that mean you have the same weighted vote? Probably not, but it's good for us as leaders to help and hear all the voices, because there's a lot of, I'm sure you two have seen this as well. It's like, I mean, there's so many people that are quiet, or maybe, and I really don't like the terms introvert or extrovert, and I don't like the word expert either, but we do show up in a way. And yet, if you can just take a pause and let these people have a voice, there's some amazing stuff that comes out of these people who are perceived as introverts or quiet. They just haven't been given the opportunity to have a voice.
Yeah.
So, anyhow.
Well, the other danger, especially as a leader, that I always try to evoke awareness around, right, is that especially coach as an expert is not the right thing to do. I tend to think of it as asking the right questions at the right time.
Yeah.
But with leaders, of course, the pattern that I try to evoke some awareness around is, if you are correcting a situation, there's going to be times where you have to step into that. You have to be directive and say,
yep, totally,
we can't do this. But in that situation where perhaps somebody is dominating a conversation, if you evoke awareness, you're not correcting, you're raising awareness for the people to act on their behalf. So you're not saying this expectation that when this starts to happen next time, come see me and I'll step in, I'll be the hero, or I'll be the police, right? You're getting away from that learned helplessness. You're helping others, see what you're seeing that they might not be aware of, to then take action on their own. You're pushing the authority, you're pushing the observation to the team. At the same time, you're also maintaining authority within that group to sort that out amongst themselves.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I love that. And I said earlier, I don't like the word expert, because for me personally, expert infers that I know everything. And the reality is I don't know squat. I'm experienced. I might have some wisdom through the years of working, but the bottom line is I'm not an expert. And I don't, so, my stance is always like, what, everywhere I've ever worked, everyone I've ever worked with, coached, supervised, in my Sierra Global time, I'm learning from them. So we're in it together. I may have a role as far as like a coach, a mentor, a supervisor, whatever. But the reality is that we're in it together and we're learning together. And yeah, I just that's something that's super incredibly important to me. Is that people don't feel like there's rank privilege, that that I'm an expert, that I know everything. The reality is, we'll figure it out together. We'll do it together, and we'll be better. Both of us will be better, or all of us will be better. So,
And what I'm hearing in the theme here, or at least what I want to hear, maybe I'm projecting it, is curiosity. And even with the impact part of the conversation, someone, having that conversation, like, no, I didn't realize I had that impact. And there's that moment to be curious, as opposed to, again, going into that expert mode or whatever and saying, well, you're really XYZ or whatever. There's that moment to keep it open and be curious. And when we talk about like what's needed this year from ourselves and from leaders, that's different. And I think it's, more cowbell. No, it's more curiosity.
I love that. I'm sitting here smiling so big because you hit on something that is, like, for me, core. When we talk about systems coaching, organizational relationship systems coaching, ORSC, one of the things that we talk about in that is meta skills. And meta skills are things about how we show up, how we want to show up. Curiosity is one, heart, compassion. There's so many. For me, the biggest thing that I always show up, and I mean always, is curiosity. Because anytime I'm going into a coaching session, a meeting, whatever, I stand in the space of curiosity, because I take myself back to being 8-year-old Johnny on the playground, where it's like, I'm just asking 1,000 questions and I'm driving my parents and my friends crazy, because it's like, I'm just curious. I want to know more. And what I find is that when I'm helping others to maybe think about approaching things from a curious perspective, it helps take judgment away. Because if you're curious about something and you're asking a lot of questions, then you're not being judgmental. You're being, in my opinion, you're being more curious about what's going on here, not judging something and making a determination on something. You're really wanting to understand more. What is happening here? And I didn't know that, or that's interesting. And that helps me as a coach, helps us as coaches, as leaders, to then formulate what's really going on here, and how may I be able to help this situation, this person's team, this organization. So I love curiosity. Thank you for bringing that in.
All right.
So, speaking of curiosity, when you are a leader and you're sensing something, but you can't quite put your finger on it, you can't quite, like, you feel it, it's there in the emotional field, but you're not quite sure how to address it, you're not quite sure what is there, what do you do then? Or what would you think, or perhaps even a starting point in that scenario?
Can you say that again, Brandon? I'm not sure I grasped that. For me,
Sure.
anyhow, I'm not sure I got that fully.
Let's say you're a team lead. Your team comes in and there's something that's funky. You can feel it, you can sense it. Maybe somebody's feeling something, or everybody's feeling something, but nobody's talking about it. And you're not quite sure. Like, you don't have the confidence that it is definitely that.
So I got it. I put it out there. I just put it out there, and I may not put out exactly what I'm feeling, but I'm going to put some out there. It's like, if I'm going in with a team and I'm going to do, a coaching session with them, and I'm personally feeling a vibe like that, I don't hesitate to put it out there. It's like, man, and I'm not going to, if I don't know exactly if I can't name it, then I'll leave it unnamed. I'll just say, some feels different to me today. It's some's feeling a little off or different or whatever. And I may not even choose the word off, because then that might suggest that they're not on. But it's like, there's a different vibe, there's a different feeling going on. Is anyone else feeling that? And then I'm just asking questions. I'm being curious. I'm not naming it yet, because I don't even know what it is, and I'm not telling them what it is. I'm just putting it out there in the ether, if you will, to say, okay, well, is it just me or other people? And then so I'll just put something out there like, yeah, that's a little bit different feel today, a little different vibe. What's going on? And then fade back and see if anyone offers up anything. If they do, great, then we can take it and go and then start unfolding that, unpacking that some. If not, then, I may get a little more curious. It's like, I'm not exactly sure I would say that. I'd have to be in the moment, but I'm sure I would not just let that go if I'm feeling some strange vibe. And especially whether I'm in a room with all the people or if I'm on a Teams call or a Zoom call where I can at least see people from chest up and I can see people, looking away, they're looking down, starting to read whatever body language I can get. But I don't know that I don't steer away from that. It's like, okay, let's put it out there and see what's going on. I don't know. What do you think, Janel? What do you do?
Yeah, I would do the same. I would, again, like, just keep it as not like it's off. I like that a lot when you said that, because I think that's unnatural in our language.
Yeah.
Sometimes to just add that word, and it's like, oh, it doesn't have to be off. It's just different.
Right.
Yeah. And then just being open, like you said, to those cues. I'd love to hear, if there's something else to do, but I would have done the same thing. Just asked. And then the only other thing I can think of is if sometimes we have like a dominant person who would then see that as their opportunity, and it might be something new, or it might be that same old thing that they're always talking about. And that might be a reminder to that leader, like, oh, I need to have a conversation with them later about the impact of that, and understand, like, being really curious on why that topic keeps coming up. There's a reason they keep hammering it, and at every opportunity that's the only other thing I think of with this is, like, you've got that person with that, I don't know if it's necessarily an agenda, but the topic is chronic. And it's like, oh, yeah, there it is again, because I didn't talk to them and find out what's going on and see if there's some way to satisfy their need with this, or if it's time to have a different conversation because it can't be satisfied and it's now holding back the team in some way or whatever. So
yeah, I love that. And if someone is, on occasion, what I've done with someone like that, who is like continuously brings something up to the point where it can be disruptive, and create misalignment, is to actually put them in the position of facilitating the conversation, not their agenda, but actually holding the conversation for others. And that person is there just to facilitate, not to be part of the conversation, but just to facilitate it. And not come in and at that particular point not have their own voice or their dominating voice, but let others hear it. And maybe from that particular stance, they might actually have they may be able to see or hear it differently than they can when they're one of the audience members, if you will.
Yeah, right on.
John, how just to if somebody's like, yes, I love that, but doesn't quite know how to put that into action, what might you say in that moment that somebody could just kind of repeat the form if and when they encounter that situation? And maybe we'll call the person Chronic Carl is on his soapbox.
Chronic Carl.
With that one issue, whether it be parking or who knows, maybe it's something you could control, maybe it's not. But how would you address Chronic Carl getting on a soapbox?
I would just invite Carl in. I would say if I'm the leader and I kicked off that meeting, but Chronic Carl showed up for the fourth straight meeting in a row and he's keep bringing up the same thing, I would invite Carl in and say, hey, you know what, Carl, it'd be something like, I really hear and feel the passion in this particular topic that you've been bringing up. What I'd like you to do is to stand in, is to take over and facilitate the conversation for our team. And what I'd like you to do is to facilitate the conversation with everyone else and facilitate from the perspective of like, what are they seeing? What are they hearing? What are they feeling? What are their ideas? And be a facilitator. You're not a participant. You're only facilitating, taking notes. You're taking down action items, things like that. I would just flat out invite them in, period.
Give it a
And that might make him uncomfortable, but that might be also part of the point. It's like, look, you're disrupting and you're creating a lot of uncomfortableness in this session, and you have for the last several weeks. So we're going to do a little bit of role reversal here and let you sit in a different place and have a different stance and maybe hopefully a different viewpoint, as far as this particular topic. Is it something that everyone is feeling? Great. Let's have other voices step in. Maybe they've got other ideas, opinions, whatever. But, that's a way. It's not the only way, but that's a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just to take that a step further, right? Because I think I've seen scenarios, and I've tried similar techniques. One of the things I've been very aware of is then that invites some rather harsh feedback, right? Like, actually, what I think Carl is, right? And it can very quickly kind of, I wouldn't call it bullying. I might even call it mobbing, where it's kind of the group perhaps expressing in less than healthy ways what they really think about Carl's topic. What do you do then as a leader?
I'm staying quiet for a minute because I notice I have talked a lot.
So this facilitator is evoking aggressive feedback. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe the feedback's going a little below the line. Yeah. It's in the facilitation stance, the darts are a flying at Carl.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and this probably wasn't the leader's intent.
Right.
Hopefully. If Carl hasn't stomped out of the room and or had to leave the call, someone else from the team might have stepped in already and said, hey, like, we're trying to be productive here. And if not, that leader could step in and redirect see, that's the thing. The curious leader is like, might want to be curious about that really inflammatory comment.
Yep.
If the leader knows the team and all that, like we are projecting that person to, they could be working to steer it to a more positive thing. But if this is like that chronic thing and now we're talking about it and there's a yucky comment, maybe it's time to really rip it all out and figure out what is the root, what is the very last ugly piece of this, so we can move on with our. It's a tough call that a leader might need to make.
Yeah, I support what you said on that, because it's like, sometimes if it gets to the point where it's just rinse and repeat, but nothing's changing, then I love what you said. It's like the metaphor I'm using or thinking about is like, okay, let's tear the bandage off all the way now. Let's just rip it off,
Yep.
Put it out there. And then, and then what might have been designed as like a comfortable weekly check-in meeting becomes a very...
a Festivus.
Yes. A very compassionate, heated conversation that the leader needs to have the confidence to be able to stand in that moment and lead that conversation, right? And to have it so that it's not personal, it's not accusatory, and that's tough, especially when people are very passionate about their stances or their opinions. And yet that can be done through, great leadership, great coaching, because I believe you both have the same stance. I mean, leaders are coaches. And I think one of the things that we as professional coaches do is that we have to help teach leaders how to be coaches. I think that's a skill that's missing in a lot of leaders, is that they don't know how to coach. They don't know how to coach their people. And those are skills and skill sets and tools that come along with that will help them to actually be better leaders, in my opinion. So, but yeah, I think ripping off the bandage and saying, okay, let's put it all out there now. And then that gets back to what you were saying earlier, Brandon, about like, we may have to do some alignment coaching here. We might have to do some ventilation, put it out there, put the ugliness out there, figure out what that thing is or things are, and get the team aligned around it so they can together then attack it. And not having, Carl being, he may feel like he's an outsider, or he's a protagonist, right? And everyone else feels that way about him, but maybe there's actually more alignment there than they think.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Right on.
Thanks for sharing. Um, just want to be mindful of time. We are coming up on, I may have been a little past our time. Absolutely rotten about keeping an eye on that timer. But in terms of, sort of closing thoughts, if you had a bottom line, one or two things, like, hey, it's going to be a turbulent year, there's going to be some noise, how to bring yourself back, how to, those tips and tricks, I think, again, on an individual level, when you feel yourself, maybe you're getting low in your tank, or perhaps even verging on empty. What are your top one to two things that help you bounce back that might be useful to others? Janel, why don't you go first?
I try to avoid media as number one. Most of that is directed at shock and awe of my human weaknesses, and that's not going to do me any good. So number one is I try to avoid media. And then the other thing, like what we were talking about, is practicing curiosity. That's, I'm going to be outside. I'm going to try and take a walk or whatever and do those things. But like curiosity is what's going to keep me from really sliding off and not wanting to deal with this when there's a whole lot of great things this year and I don't want to miss them. So I got to be curious.
Well, I love that. I mean, I would have to plus one that. I mean, you pretty much named the ones that I was thinking about as well. It's like I got to take care of myself. And take care of myself means not going down the pathway of eating junk food, crap food, because I want to push my frustration or weaknesses or whatever down with food. And getting outside, getting out into nature, getting fresh air, hearing the birds as I'm going for a walk, getting the sun on my face, and all that stuff is hugely important. And yeah, I have intentionally disconnected from media, news, social media. I mean, I'll glance at social media when my kids are posting something, but it's just too toxic right now. And it doesn't mean that I'm not trying to be informed. It's just that I love what you said, because for me, it can be triggering. And it's like, okay, if I get triggered on that stuff, and it's usually stuff that I can't have any control over, then it's like, okay, now I'm triggered and now I can't. And now how do I get myself back to me? And yeah, I've always been curious, and I've been a curious ever since I probably came out of the womb, and I talk a lot, as everyone's hearing today. But yeah, I love everything you said, Janelle. I have to plus one everything that you said. It's hugely important. How about you, Brandon?
Oh man, yeah, these are going to be a little weird because they're very personalized. I call the engine room. Right? The metaphor is like you're on the bridge of the ship, but like what's going on down there? That kind of speaks to that dissonance, right? I can get so into my head and like have to do this, have to do this, have to do this, and it's like there's something else going on, and you can feel it. It just feels weird. It's like, whoa, hold on. Let's have a chat here. What's going on? Let's bridge this distance and really go deep. What's trying to happen? What's not happening? What's causing this kind of bad vibes in the force, if you will? And then the other one, honestly, like I really love this one because I've been challenging myself to do more of it. Is just get out there and listen, right? If you're at the grocery store, if you're at the hardware store, if somebody's making a sub for you at a sub shop, ask them questions. Like some people will just naturally talk and want to tell you about their day. I like to, if they're not already talking, ask a question and just listen, right? And not listen to speak back, just listen to what's going on in their world. And I think that's the put the phone down type, tune out of the media, taking a step further of like, yes, tune out. Now let's go see a person that we wouldn't, it isn't already our friend that we talk to, and just see what's up. Hear their lived experience.
I love that.
It's
that's great.
Man, I don't get out of the house enough. I don't do that enough. It's just like, wow, a person telling a story about them. How
Exactly.
novel.
Exactly.
Oh, those are my big two.
Thanks for sharing those.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good ideas for checking in and trying to stay steady this year.
Exactly. Yeah. And we have to.
Well,
There's a lot of things happening, a lot of things that are coming, and we got to just stay grounded, stay
yeah.
checked into ourselves, take care of ourselves, and then and help take care of others. So
Great words.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm always here. You're right. It's right. Like anybody, you guys or anybody watching this, I always try to make myself accessible. So if you're really like, hey man, phone a friend, I can be that friend. Just reach out. I'm always
exactly.
I love that. So cool.
Dial us up.
Thank
I
you.
am wishing all of us the best in 2024. And it's been fantastic. John Nicol, thank you for joining us today. And Janelle.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Enjoyed the conversation, and I've enjoyed our time together in the past and working together, all three of us. And yeah, I look forward to more.
Yeah, it's fun getting the band back together, isn't it?
It is. Totally.
Janelle, it's always fun getting into trouble and doing things and being disruptive and asking the right questions. So thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Best way to start 2024 right here.
Heck yeah.
Let's keep it going.
Do it.
All right. Talk to you guys soon.
All right. Take care, y'all.